guys, it's Colin with Ghost Train Comics, and today we're going to be looking at the second part of my review of the emergence of the Energon Universe. Looking at the precursor to the relaunch and the kind of reboot of the new version of G.I. Joe. On the previous video, which I will link in here for anybody who hasn't seen it, or if you want to just have a quick rewatch on it, we did cover the first of the Energon books, Void Rivals, and then we looked at the first of the 4 precursor books to G.I. Joe, the Duke series. And today we're going to be looking at Scarlett and Destro. The complex and the clever build-up and lead into G.I. Joe as a whole, with Kirkman not just selecting the right array of talent, but introducing the key G.I. Joe components after the initial Void Rivals start and crossover starting point with Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers. The 4 books, precursors taken in order, are Duke, Scarlett, Destro, and Cobra Commander. On the other side of the precursors and the introduction of Void Rivals, and the first kind of intersection or crossover points in Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers, number 1, we see a much stronger and cohesive and fun universe that rewards but doesn't demand you read every single issue of the other series to keep up. Scarlett with Kelly Thompson writing and Marco Ferrari on art, beautifully paced with functional but pretty art, ease of fully capturing real women, the introduction of the G.I. Joe classic characters like Storm Shadow and Jinx as credible, serious, and an integral plot point echoes what Daniel Warren Johnson did so brilliantly in Transformers, as does Josh Williamson in Duke, though Thompson manages to portray Scarlett as less cliched than Duke, and without some of the cheese that the other series has. As I said in the other review, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's almost to be expected to keep it kind of all ages friendly, but each writer is given enough kind of space to bring their own stamp to the characters and to approach them from their own point of view, especially in the Precursor series, which is kind of building up to the introduction, giving us a taste of all the individuals before we start seeing them come together in the team book. Marco Ferrari's art is particularly good match to Kelly Thompson's fast-moving yet very character point of view oriented at the same time, with Lee Lockridge's colors and Russ Wooten's lettering completing the ability to be fully immersed in not just the world of Scarlett, but the overarching creation of all the pieces of the emerging foundational Energon universe. The art carries the story wonderfully with precise, visually pleasing, and very kinetically alive pieces. And with the color and lettering accents, we get flashback scenes isolated perfectly, as well as each character able to speak in their own individual voices. The design team of Andre Juarez and Ashby Lawrence keep the books aligned in look and presentation, even if each of the separate books, like I mentioned, is quite a different experience and can stand or die on their own merits. Destro, the last 2 series that lead into the main Joe's book, give us some background and motivation for the villains, with the follow-up one being Cobra Commander, and helping again establish credible origin and believable foundational setup. Andre Bressan and Andrea Milano do the pencils, with Adriano Lucas as the colorist, again Russ Wooten letters, and Andre Juarez and Ashby Lawrence continuing the cohesive design experience. While the art doesn't quite rise to the level of Marco Ferrari on Scarlett, it does carry Dan Waters' tight and brooding script quite well with Destro, Destro and Cobra Commander being portrayed perfectly throughout. One of the points of each of the Energon Precursor books was to build a solid foundation by giving us insights into the main building blocks behind the G.I. Joe unified team, And we see that in particularly interesting form with Scarlett in her camaraderie and her humanity, as well as her abilities and weapon choices. Whilst with Destro, Waters takes a fascinating approach of the chilling family vault connection, as well as Destro being portrayed as a ruthlessly brilliant and analytical businessman and games player. There's some echoes here to the original intent behind Marv Wolfman's Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was to reboot the DC Universe completely afterwards, and then establish each of the principal kind of players like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, etc. Kind of what they're doing in Absolute now. But the intent was to have the Justice League then kind of form and show up after the introduction of each of the characters in this new post-crisis universe. They obviously, editorial got cold feet, so they muddled it by keeping some bucks similar, but doing like reboot stories like Batman Year One, etc. But you're seeing here what Kirkman's doing with Energon, because he has a clear runway and he's in charge of it, and he's got Hasbro's blessing to kind of bring these changes and make the connections. So this is quite an extraordinary rollout, and the success of it obviously speaks to Kirkman's instincts, not just as a great writer and producer, showrunner, etc., but as somebody able to corral great talent, able to give them enough space to do what they do, and you end up with a triumph like this. Some of the dialogue in here is particularly interesting and smart in an expository way, in that it's actually sounds credible as something that a character like Destro would say. All life is war, all entities burn with the desire for power. I cannot begrudge them. I do not blame you for seeking what I have. Look on this as a wake-up call, gentlemen. There are things emerging into this world. None of us have predicted or anticipated, perhaps, that they are not even from this world. They would make dinosaurs of us all, perhaps render our entire art. And the ending refrain, the future is arriving, the future is war, is kind of the quickening of the pace, as we know that we're going into the last of the 4 bucks with Cobra Commander after this one, and then it's a straight shot into G.I. Joe's and Transformer Universe shared. The last 2 issues of Destro really step up the plot, and especially the discrete connections to Transformers and Scarlett, and the setting of the stage for the emerging G.I. Joe's book. Now, just a quick point of order in that it is separate to the Legacy Joe's book for anybody who's confused, which is called The G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, and continues on Larry Hama's stories from the old Marvel continuity, now being published again by Image, by Skybound, but not as part of the Energon Universe, to keep it separate. It's in its own little parallel reality. The last few pages of issue 4 restate the twin themes of war is business and the moving of the final chess pieces into place for the last precursor to G.I. Joe, with the next and last miniseries, Cobra Commander, ready to take the stage. So, love to hear your thoughts, guys. If you're currently reading the Energon Universe in singles or in collections, let me know how you're enjoying it. Let me know how you enjoyed this review. If you haven't read it yet, love to hear your thoughts on it. As always, we'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. But thanks for watching. Bye-bye.